Hello everyone, and this is, I think, our fourth session of studying Atisha's 7-point mind training, or Atisha's mind training condensed into 7 points several generations after he gave it. And this is the most wonderful, doable version of training, living as a bodhisattva that we have available these days, thanks to its very, very pure preservation in the Tibetan lineage. In fact, in several of the Tibetan lineages, this is the way that we train as a bodhisattva. And certainly in the history of Samiling, we've found that of all the different things, this was a very, it worked the best for most people, and it worked very, very well. So let's start by reminding ourselves of our bodhisattva motivation, maybe remembering when we took the bodhisattva vow, if you have, and if not, just taking that perspective to understand this life is just one among many. Just like this day is one among many. There was yesterday, there'll be tomorrow. I hope there'll be a day after tomorrow and a lot more. But there are. This life can be the one that changes everything. It's not easy, but it can be done. And it can, it's very much like points on railway tracks. Just a little bit of metal and it shifts. But then after that shift, the whole journey is that way and not that way. And you can end up in Newcastle and not Bristol, or wherever you're going. It's just a change. But then because of that change, in the next life, in the next life, the next life, then our whole future. But it's not easy. So let's remember, it's like being underwater in this life. Life is so busy, it's so demanding, it's all-encompassing. So it's like being underwater and coming up for a breath of oxygen. We forget everything for the next hour and a half and focus entirely on the teachings from Atisha. We take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and in the community of most noble minds. From this moment on, until we reach the very heart of enlightenment. Through our practice of generosity and all 6 transcendent virtues, may we reach total awakening and every enlightened quality, to be able to truly help sentient beings so lost in samsara. May each and every being be well. May they live long. May they be healthy and well provided for. May they have good friends and find respect and live in places of peace and plenty. And most of all, may they practice Dharma. May they each create the causes for such good circumstances to be their wealth in future lives. May they be free from suffering and from creating causes of future suffering. May they discover the natural, sacred well-being totally beyond suffering and attain great equanimity, free of closeness or distance from anyone. Deyata shame shamawati shameta shatru am kori marajite karota keori tejuwati olo yani bishuda nemale malapana ye kukure kaka grase grasana muki paramuki amuki shametan sawa graha bandhanane nigrihtva sawa bhav Prawadina vimukta marapasha saptapita buddha mudra anugatita savamare butsarita parishuddhe Pegashantu savamara kama. Glorious Guru, source of all blessing, ever present above our heads, on lotus and moon seat, through your immense kindness, ever sustain us, that the accomplishments of body, speech, and mind flow from you, and we are one. So we are studying the 7 points of mind training. That's what we're doing. This is not a full, how can you say, transmission whereby you're training so that at the end of this course you are fully equipped to go off and be mind trainers. Not mind trainers, what would the word be? But anyway, this is not personal one-on-one instruction. It's a bit like that, but it's not. It's we're trying to get a really good idea of what it is, so that if you do decide to sign up for it, you know what you're signing up for. This is very important, because in Dharma centers and Dharma practice, I mean, especially for it's not Westerners, but Westerners, Easterners, they come from all over, but not Tibetans, right? Non-Tibetans practicing Dharma, coming from a different world, the modern world, a different culture, and so on and so on. Often people are very enthusiastic at the beginning, and they commit, and they get involved, and they practice, and it doesn't turn out to be what they thought it would be. And that can become very, very difficult. And it can lead to a lot of unhappiness and unnecessary unhappiness, unnecessary conflict. Really does. I mean, I've known people, well, who've taken their own lives because of that conflict, or they've suffered a lot. They've really hurt deeply, deeply inside, because they've embarked on something that you say in English, they've bitten off more than they can chew, or they've committed themselves to a guru without knowing what guru commitment means, and so on and so on. All sorts of things happen. So, and then Dharma, as we go through the verses, you see, it's sometimes quite in conflict with the modern world. What people say is right and you ought to do these days, you don't do if you want to lose your ego. So it's not easy. So the intention, my intention with this course, is you do have a good idea of what's going on inside the mind training, so that if you do want to do it, all of it as a practice, base your life around it, then there won't be any painful surprises. Well, there'll always be some, but I mean, they won't be as bad as they could have been. And so that's my intention. But this is not a thorough training. It's a lifetime's practice. You need a teacher, you need to work with a teacher, And we then work on it. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say. So it's in 7 points. The first point I talked about, I hope enough now. We must have the basic ideas, the basic understanding, the basic motivation in place through the 4 ways of changing the mind, refuge, and understanding what it means to be a bodhisattva. We're in point 2. Point 2, called the 2 bodhicittas, it's in 2 main areas, and we're in the first of those, which is about cultivating, awakening, ultimate bodhicitta. So we've seen last time, maybe the time before, just now basically we have 2 things going on. Our relative stream of consciousness, which for most people totally occupies their mind second after second, without a break. We are what's called a stream of consciousness, a sentient being. We're somebody, somewhere, with karma that's unique, made in past lives, and just now we're in a human life, making karma that's writing the story of our future lives. That's very intense, very busy, very impermanent, and so on. We are that, and at the same time, this mind of ours, this being of ours, this me, is basically Buddha, an unchanging state of perfection, of unbelievable love and compassion and wisdom, and most importantly, of total peace, total stability. So we are that, but we don't usually experience it. We don't know it. Not know about it, we know about that because lots of things talk about it. Knowing about it is not the same as knowing it. So we don't know it. And that's where all the problems come. Through not knowing. So it's ignorance. Ignorance in the 12 links of interdependence is number 1. It's the cause of all the rest of suffering. We ignore what we basically are, which is beautiful and perfect. That is the ground state of mind. It's the natural state of mind. When we learn to go beyond and to get rid of the unnatural artifice of our stream of being. So we have these 2 things, the pure, timeless, perfect you, always there, unrecognized, and the preoccupying, moment after moment, gripping story of me in this life, in this world, with my karma. So the point of bodhicitta number 1 is how can we wake up to this truth of Buddha that we all are. Telling yourself, I'm Buddha, I'm Buddha, I'm Buddha, well, it's a start, but it won't take you very far because most of us don't even know what Buddha is. So, when was it? This year, last year, we studied the Buddha nature teachings. Very long, 400 verses. It's a lot. About the awakened, or Buddha. Buddha means awakened, the awakened nature of our mind. So telling yourself I'm Buddha, especially when you don't know what Buddha is it's a bit weird. But it helps, it's a start. But it won't awaken your Buddha mind. So how can we do that? We see that here through 5 verses of instruction. Instruction means you get the instructions, then you have to do it. Of those 5, 4 are about what we do on the cushion. So we saw we make a meditation session. We need to start with powerful motivation. refuge, bodhicitta, inspiring prayers. And then we also need to put ourselves into an appropriate beginning state of mind. So we do 21 or 25 beautiful breaths. Just breathe in, breathe out. And then we do the 4 steps. And when we do meditate, when you get the proper instructions, then we see that ideally we do this with an excellent posture. And we learn how to have a very strict posture that holds all our energy channels in the right place. So for 3 minutes, we sit strictly and very disciplined way. We do the first practice, the second, third, the fourth for that session. 3 minutes, then you take a rest, total rest. And then you go back and you do 3 absolutely focused, disciplined minutes. So the 4 things we do on the cushion. The first one is to see everything as being like a dream. So we're not telling ourselves it's like a dream. It's not a kind of relaxed attitude looking at it like a dream. We are very awake, very aware. And as each moment comes up, we see it, how it is like a dream. You have a moment, you're worrying about your income tax, right? 2 moments before, income tax wasn't in your mind. And now your mind's full of income tax. And then it will switch to your health. Income tax is gone, till it comes back again. It comes out of nowhere. It's there, and while it's there, you're totally in it. Your mind is 360 degrees surround, full Dolby stereo income tax. Then it's gone. And then it's 360 degrees full surround, Dolby stereo, the mushrooms between your toes, and what are you going to do about them? You're totally in it. And then it's gone. It's not gone somewhere. It's gone. Just like a dream. It's all absorbing. It's inside, outside. Like a dream, it has its causes and conditions somewhere in the past. And now it's on screen. And then it's gone. Like in a dream, it's duality, but looks like duality. There's a you and there's another world, but in the end, when you wake up, there is no me and other. It's all you. So we know, because Buddha tells us, that when we wake up from this life dream, it won't quite be what it seems like when we're totally plunged into it. So in a very awakened way, moment after moment, we're observing our mind as it happens, as it comes and goes, and seeing this is another level of reality from which we will awake, just like we wake up from a dream. And when we awaken from this reality, we awaken to our Buddha nature. That's why we are seeing it, how it is so much like a dream. And then that gives us some relief, some lightness. The income tax and the mushrooms between your toes, they're not so important. They're there, but they're not so important. We see how the mind gets plunged into this, plunged into the next thing. In meditation language, it's called losing your mind. It's not quite in the worldly sense of losing your mind. but the clarity of awakened awareness that we get through meditation, we lose it because we are distracted, absorbed. We are gone. So last time I said there's a Tibetan word for this, trapa. So in some sessions we are working on that, seeing our habitual, historical mind as like a dream. In other sessions it says check out the unborn awareness. So last time I talked about unborn means not created by causes and conditions. This, and it's non-dual awareness. So checking out, we're not talking about checking out your dual awareness. Just now you're aware. And you're aware of, I hope, my voice, the ideas I'm sharing. You're maybe looking at the screen, seeing these shapes, colors. That awareness is dualistic awareness. We're not talking about that. I'm not talking about that awareness one bit. So we're not being aware of that awareness, of all of that awareness of the awareness of the awareness. That's worldly awareness. That's dualistic awareness. We're not checking that out. We do that in other places when we're dealing with the relative mind. We are checking out or trying to discover, this means, to awaken to the unborn self-awareness of Buddha mind. That's a totally other awareness. That's called jhana, yishi. Not the usual prajna, wisdom awareness, dualistic awareness. So we're learning to check that out. So last time I said in practice, the only way this is ever going to happen is through training in shamatha, developing peaceful, stable mind, within the peaceful, stable mind, receiving instructions for exploring it, and so on and so on. It's a whole training that we get through Mahamudra or through Dzogchen. So there, in some sessions, we are, with our teacher's help, we are learning to break through to this Buddha mind. So in the process of receiving these meditation instructions, we learn remedies. Remedies for when things go wrong. Now we need to go through that stage. If you read the very high-flying teachings, then you know right and wrong, subject, object, all of this. You can go beyond it, but you are not beyond it when you are a beginner and when you're learning. You are super dualistic all the time. So we need to work with that. Need to work with it. So meditation has lots of things which in terms of meditation training are wrong. When we're training in shamatha, distraction is wrong. When the mind drifts from its focus, you have to pull it back. When the mind gets very busy, we need to calm it down a bit. So there's all sorts of remedies for when the mind is too busy and too distracted. Then also, the point of shamatha is a peaceful, awakened awareness. Oh, if we get too sleepy, a kind of thick, Buddha people call it, is a brain fog, and you're foggy. In terms of meditation, that's wrong. We need to correct it, so we've got a remedy. We learn to take some clothes off, open a window, do visualizations that pull our energies upwards and so on. Remedies. But here we're not talking about those so much because that's beginner stuff. When it says even the remedies are released in their own place, are released of their own accord, we're looking at a training that we do in our 3-minute sessions, very disciplined, on the cushion, where the remedy is a naked looking into the moment. And that's what we train in Mahamudra and Dzogchen. It's a kind of, I don't know, for me, it's like well, let me deviate. Okay, this isn't traditional teaching. It's just a passing memory, but it might help. At one point, Akon Rinpoche brought his brother, not Lama Yeshe, another brother, from Tibet. Unfortunately, his brother had been imprisoned because he was the brother of Akon Rinpoche, and Akon Rinpoche had fled. He spent many years in prison, and when finally he was released, Akon Rinpoche wanted to bring him, so he brought him to Dumfriesshire. And quite honestly, he was like a spaceman, and he got into trouble because he didn't realize that people's front gardens and back gardens were their property. If it looked interesting, he'd just wander in and kind of check it out. And like people, the way Westerners ignore each other. You walk down the street and you kind of don't make eye contact unless it's somebody you know. He didn't know all these rules. He was incredibly naive. And so he got into trouble. He got reported to the police. The police, they call Akon Rinpoche to say, your brother's sort of gone up and stared at somebody because they looked strange. He came from a remote part of Tibet. The people in that part, when the first Westerners came, they didn't think they were humans. They thought they were ghosts. They'd never seen white people. So they probably got some Scandinavians or Germans who came with blonde hair and pale skins, and they ran because they thought they were ghosts. It was something so unusual. He came from a remote part of Tibet, and then years in prison like that. No TV, no media. He was in a land, that was just weird. So he could go up and look at people, because they had unusual faces, and we don't do that. So we learn with our mind in order to overcome the power of our relative mind, to look directly into things. So let's say some things make you afraid, nervous. We learn how, as it arises, we actually look into it to find out what it is, where it is. And anytime you do that, it disappears. It's really weird. The more you want to know it, it's a bit like some human relationships where the more you want to get close to somebody, the more you drive them away. It's the more we look into this feeling of fear, the biological feeling, your mind's paranoid thoughts, the more we try and look into them, we can't catch them. They're gone. So that is a remedy for our hopes and our fears, is as they come up, we don't try and get rid of them and say, negative emotion, klesha, nyamong, samsara. We're really curious. It's like, I want to get to know you. Imagine some stranger comes up to you in the street and says, I really want to get to know you. It's got to do that. No, when we do that with our thoughts and feelings, and especially the difficult things, really sincerely, they disappear. So this, on one level of our training, is what's called a remedy, where we learn to look directly into whatever comes up in the moment, to know it, and it disappears. So I'm not giving you instructions for that. I'm telling you what goes on when you get instructions for that. So what will happen at first, you need to learn how to do that, to just accept and be in the moment, including, your demons and all the rest of it, all that kind of stuff. We learn to do that. And through learning to do it and through it becoming familiar, it happens all by itself. So it's like learning to drive. When you do your first driving lessons, you have to really, it's scary. You're there and all of a sudden the thing's moving. And you've got somebody next to you telling you, do this, do that, look in the mirror, move the stick, do this with your feet. And you're in this thing which could crush people, and it's going down the street and it's kind of going off course, and you've got to bring it back. You have to be 100% learning. No mind space for anything else, but then you get more and more used to it. And then you still have to pay attention for the more difficult things like reversing into a space. Still there, you've got to concentrate and so on. But in the end, after 20 years driving, you can drive very well and very safely and be listening very intently to what's on the radio. A whole program about philosophy, about science, and you can get it and you're driving safely because it is very familiar. So we train in the deep meditation trainings, this is ultimate truth, bodhicitta training. We learn how to be 100% in the moment, and it just becomes shunyata, voidness, disappears, nothing there. And again, that becomes automatic. So here we're looking at then transcending that process, so that even the automatic remedying of thoughts and emotions as they comes up is not taking our awareness. We're freeing our awareness even from that, it says. So that will sort itself out all by itself. Somehow your relative mind, through your beautiful meditation training, is sorting itself out. You can leave it to get on with it. Which means that we're in a space where we can then go on to number 4, which is remaining in the pure space of mind that we've discovered. We can remain in it for a second, and then 2-3 seconds, then 5 seconds, then the time of several breaths. Longer and longer, because our mind is not pulled back into the stream of consciousness, not even deep meditation practice with its remedies. All of that's taking care of itself, and we have the freedom to explore the space in which all of your samsara and everybody's samsara takes place. So it says, remain in the alaya, the source of all Dharma. Remain in the alaya, the source of all Dharma. So remain is the key word. We have to learn how to not lose that space. And there's a lot in this one sentence. So the remaining is, how do you remain? How do you not lose it because your mind has just said shunyata? Shut up, mind, shut up. Stop commenting. Stop commenting. So, those of you who know me, I've always used the same examples. so you can have a bit of a rest now, have a cup of tea or something. Some things strike you in your life, and in my life, some things struck me. So I'm old, right? When I was a kid, not many people had TV. In the street in which I lived in the 1950s, only 1, 2, 3 people in a whole street had TV. And there were no lotteries. People bet on horses. So you listened to the horse races on the radio. And there were these commentators. Now, a horse race, you've got lots of horses, and they have to tell you what's going on. And, their job is to get you excited. So it's, this one's going up, this one's slowing down. They give the name of the horses and they tell you what's going on. Then it sounds like the commentator's going to have a heart attack almost when it gets near the end. Like they come, and then this one won. And number 2 was this and that. Okay, so that was the world of radio. Then the weird thing was, as the decades went by, everybody got TV. And you could see the horse race. But still the commentators are doing this detailed commentary, even though you can see it all with your own eyes. So what was fascinating for me is you turn off the sound and it's so peaceful. I mean, it's just got horses, boom, 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 like this. It doesn't look exciting, and then, one's coming up and another one's going back and somebody's winning. You turn up the sound and you've got this apoplectic commentator who's making it all and telling you what you know anyway, because you can see this one's doing this. It's totally unnecessary. But they still do it. They still do it. So we see our mind does that. Even though you're now a meditator and you're having experiences, from all the Dharma you learned, there's this little voice that's telling you what's going on. You don't need it. And it spoils it. It spoils it. Just spoils it. So we need to remain. We need to not lose the experience because of a description, a dualistic, conceptual description of what was non-dualistic and non-conceptual. We have to learn how to ignore the voice, just like we ignored the remedies, to transcend, to go beyond. So it says, remain in the alaya. Now this word alaya means the basis of all. The basis of all. And it's very tricky. And especially if you're an interpreter, a translator from Sanskrit or Tibetan text, it's very tricky, because if you see the term alaya or kunji, in Tibetan, kunji means basis of all, but it can mean one of 2 very different things. It can mean kunji, full stop, and it can be shorthand for kunshi, namshi, alaya vijnana, all basis consciousness. The all basis consciousness, when we study consciousness, is consciousness number 8. It's part of our stream of samsara, our stream of worldly consciousness, and it is like the ground that holds all the imprints of our karma and produces many things, our karma, our dualistic interpretation of it, and so on. So kunshi namshi, or alaya vijnana, is 8th consciousness, it's part of samsara. Kunshi, stop there. Kunshi, all basis, or basis for all, is sometimes a code word for Buddha mind, within which, as a space, samsara and nirvana both happen. All of our Dharma journey to nirvana, all of our samsara journey of reincarnations, they all happen within that basis of all. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Within that basis of all happens. But there we're talking about changeless, perfect, loving, kind, wise, peaceful Buddha mind. Basis of all. Not the eighth worldly consciousness as simply the basis of all our worldly experience. Not the basis of all, just the basis of all our worldly experience. So here it says, remain within the alaya, the basis of all, comma, the source of all Dharma, the source, the place it all comes from, of all Dharma. So there, Dharma could mean phenomena, things, the source of all things, but mainly it means the source of all the Dharma path, all the Dharma teachings, everything Buddha gave to guide us. This speechless, quiet, we call it Dhammakaya. Dhammakaya. The expanse of Dharma is where all the Dharmas come from. That wisdom, that love, that peace. All of the Dharma teachings come from that. And this is wonderful if you have a good guru, because when you go for an interview, a one-on-one with a good guru, that's what they are. They sit, they are totally peaceful. The kindness, the love is there, but the peace is there. There's nothing going on. It's like a mirror. So from that great mirror of truth, then you're there with your problems, your situation, and you get a reflection that comes back to help you. They give you teachings. They all come from that clear space. And even those of you who are therapists and who help people will have some experience of this quiet, uninvolved space where the answers to your clients' situations come from. It's very useful, that. It's so we are, it says, remain. You need to learn to be longer and longer in this alaya, meaning Buddha mind, which is the source of all Dharma, and in our own case, the source of all guidance. Because when we are connected with that inner purity of ourselves, real guidance comes from there. You don't need to dialogue so much on the outside with teachers, and because you have an inner channel to connect you to perfect truth. So now, so far in our study of how do we do the bodhicitta of ultimate awareness, we've done 4 things, right? 4 precise things we do in a strict session as best we can. We're on our incredibly very best, most awake behavior, disciplined and so on. See things as dreams, discover unborn awareness, let the remedies dissolve of their own accord as they happen, and then the next one, learn to remain in the basis of all Dharma. Those are 4 things we do on the cushion. And then instruction number 5 is also for cultivating unborn, ultimate bodhicitta. But it's what we do in between sessions. So it's called post-meditation or between meditation things. So there, let me catch you up with the text and with the Tibetan. Where are we? So the text says, between sessions, be a conjurer of illusions. Tunsam Jumije Bucha. So what does this mean? In between sessions, be a conjurer of illusions. So you need to buy a long cloak and a pointed hat and a pack of cards and a rabbit and a magic wand, basically. So that's what it's saying. Get a job as a magician. So what does it mean? It means in between sessions we realize the dreamlike, illusory nature of things. And we learn how to work with that in a very helpful way for ourselves and for everybody else. As a prelude to that, actually doing that, when we're off the cushion, dealing with people we know, family, friends, work, and all the rest of life as it happens, we need to both understand the Buddha's analogies of like a dream, like an illusion, like a magic show, and so on. We need to understand what the Buddha meant, and we need to understand how, and this is so important because so many people get it wrong, we need to understand how the shunyata, voidness, emptiness teachings should be applied when we're dealing with other people and life. How the more we see life as a dream and an illusion, the more love and compassion we should feel, rather than the more contempt for other people, because they're so deluded. I mean, it's the truth of it. People are deluded. Life's one huge illusion. People are so unnecessary, making their own suffering, making other people suffer. And the whole thing in its fiber, in its nature, it's like a dream. So as we understand that dreamlike nature, which is the very feeling of shunyata teaching, shunyata, emptiness, voidness, doesn't mean you go into some space beyond other. It means we realize the totally dreamlike nature of interdependent reality. So we need that to make our compassion even more, not even less. Very, very important. So we need to learn to be a conjurer of illusions. We don't take life so solidly and so seriously for ourselves, but we appreciate how real it is for each and every other being. And we learn to practice the 6 paramitas is what we're talking about. We learn to be a kind, illusory being in this illusory world. And so that is a whole training. It's many lifetimes of training in the 6 paramitas. How do you do that? How do you do it? So an example is like, what can we say? A child's got a toy, teddy bear. And the teddy bear has lost an arm. Now, maybe for the child, this is a huge catastrophe. Teddy's lost his arm. It's like almost the end of the world. Now, you don't think I'm a Buddhist, this teddy bear isn't real, and this child is totally deluded, and, forget it. And you don't go and tell the child, Teddy never existed. Teddy is my best friend. Teddy helps me sleep every night. You don't say, no, you're totally deluded. You're just a child, like this. You say, oh, poor Teddy. Let's see what we can do to put Teddy back together again. So we can help the child learn to thread a needle and sew and learn about healing. And we can make Teddy cuddleable again. He's got 2 arms to hug you. Within the illusion of the child, then we can be kind. But it doesn't mean we have to think that Teddy's real. And we have to be the victim of that illusion. So, like I said, we need to understand these analogies of the Buddha. And so when the Buddha says it's like a magic show, and then of course we've seen magic shows, and for us we can get the meaning of that. It looks like a coin was made to disappear. The magician takes the coin, shows you the coin, puts it in their hand, and then there's nothing there. But they've actually got it between their fingers, But anyway, it looks like the coin disappeared. And if you do the trick for children and they don't know it, but where did it go? Then because you've got it in your hand, you can produce it from their pocket. But how did it get there? And it never got there. It was in your hand all the time. But the illusion, the appearance, is different from what's really going on. Have you ever seen how they saw a person in 2, usually a woman? It's not very kind. It's always a man sawing a woman in 2. And then, so you've got 2 boxes and 2 women, and they're folded up inside each box so you can saw through it. They're still wiggling their legs and so on. So what seems to be the case, especially when you pull the 2 halves of the box apart and put it back together again, isn't what is going on. So we can understand that. It's like a magic show. If somebody takes it seriously, they can really hurt. And if they understand what's going on, then they won't hurt. And even it can be very informative. We can learn and grow from what seems to be the pain of life, from our own illness, our own adverse circumstances of wealth and other people and the country we live in and the climate and all those things don't need to be a cause of suffering. So we can understand it on that level. But actually what the Buddha was talking about at the time when he said magic show was hypnosis. And in India, as many of you know, there were professional hypnotists. People would pay them money and they'd sit close to the hypnotist who would hypnotize them. And what the people would see were the legends. They'd see devas in the deva realm, gods, and all the wonders because they were hypnotized. So the hypnotist could, it's like people who guide other people on LSD trips or something. They'd take them to a world they could normally never perceive. They didn't have TV. They didn't have anything, like we have these days with Hollywood and computer-generated images. This was their, how can you say, probably the most exciting moment of the year. The hypnotist has come to town. You pay your money, you get the show, you get a mind movie, and then when it's over, But people looking from a distance couldn't see that. They saw the hypnotist, the so-called magician, and he's moving around usually stones. But for the people looking, those stones were gods, goddesses, chariots, rainbows, palaces. But people just saw, and a crowd of people going, wow, like this, their minds blown. Because what? What's the point? They are totally 100% gone. So until we learn Dharma and to meditate, and we learn about Shunyata, we are totally gone. We are enthralled by our own karma. It has 100% reality. But the more we understand about how it's generated and how it's totally subjective, and that what we call the world isn't the world, it's our world, the world as we perceive it, and there's nobody else perceives it. Everyone's going round in their world that they call the world. It doesn't take much to understand that. It takes a lot to go beyond it. But you talk with your neighbors, you meet somebody in the street, they're into dogs. They're in a world of dogs, and that's their world. Somebody else is in a world of investment, and they're gone there. Somebody is a capitalist. I've got a visitor from my sister-in-law. I have to be very careful what you say because he's extreme right-wing. She was in fact a card-carrying communist, so it's strange she's got this guy as a friend. But he comes there and he is incredibly racist, and so to be polite, you kind of you can say things when you can. But he's in a world of extreme right-wing vision of things. That's how the world is for him. The people they're into, everyone's in their world, but they call it the world because it is the world for them. It's how outer reality is. So the more we understand that, the more we understand our own relationship with our own world. And that's there that we learn to be a conjurer of illusions. So we can make our reality different. We're a conjurer. Your pain doesn't need to be pain. Your fear doesn't need to be fear. Your hopes, which will probably become disappointments, don't need to, we don't need to be carried away by them, and so on. We learn to understand our historical, traditional conditioning, whereby we're me who is reactive in a certain way to the karma that's manifesting to me as my world. We can become a magician with this. We can turn everything, if we know how, into the path to freedom. Everything. Now what better, that's better than rabbits out of hats. This is your life. This is your future. We can change it. But because our waking state involves other people, it gets complicated. There's not just you. There's everybody else, and they're not all there just to make your life okay and to make your Dharma path okay. They are not pliable, changeable. They're them. They've got their own karma, and they don't believe what you believe. And we have so much to learn about these 6 perfections, the 6 tools that make us liberated forever and a friend for everyone forever, useful to everybody, wise, kind, unchained ourselves. Is 6 paramitas is the way we do it. And we can only do that working with each other, working with other people's solidified reality as best we can. Like the teddy bear's arm. We're in the world of endless broken teddy bears, and we have to be the kind person, helping people where we can. And if we can, it's like when you've got the child. For the moment, the teddy bear's too real. You need to keep the illusion going. But as the child is growing up, it's also our duty as a parent to, take them beyond Father Christmas and teddy bears and help them have a healthy relationship to undiluted life. But that takes time. That takes time. So we're helping other people in their immediate delusion. But where we can, we're helping other people grow a little bit, become better human beings, become a bit wiser, a bit kinder, a bit more at peace with themselves when we can. So in between sessions, we do that work, we become the conjurer of illusions, but in the context of these 5 points for developing ultimate bodhicitta is that all the time we do realize that it is illusion. We don't get drawn back into it, so our own mind becomes solid, full of hope and fear, and so on. We are the conjurer. There's a story in the life story of Tilopa. And when we studied Tilopa's life, there's one part about once he's enlightened his activity. Some really, really funny stories. It's a different age. They are stories. We can just see them as stories. Who knows? Maybe some of them were true and actually happened. But there was one guy who was a powerful professional hypnotist who was very good at making people see soldiers that weren't there. So he hired out his services to small warlords, local kings. He could produce magical armies. Now this is a really good deal. You hire this guy, and your enemies see armies of such ferocious soldiers, they don't want to fight. You win a battle without even risking the lives of your soldiers, because this guy can hypnotize, do mass hypnosis to another king and his ministers and so on, so that they perceive a real enemy that's not there. So this guy had a really strong mind. I don't know if you've ever met really good professional hypnotists. I've met a couple. The first one I met was in India, more than 50 years ago. Completely took over my mind. And by the time we said goodbye, he'd taken nearly all my money as well. And he was really good, reading mind, hypnotizing. I was completely gone. And then at one point in one of our centers, we did have a professional stage hypnotist. She could put a whole room full of people under in a few seconds. Such a powerful mind. Amazing. So this guy in Tilopa's story was good at producing armies. And he was in the process of earning a few bob, earning a bit of money, making an army for a king. And Tilopa came along and put his mind in that reality, being a conjurer of illusions. And he killed all the hypnotist's soldiers. And the hypnotist looked at him, appalled. He said, "How can you, a famous Buddhist teacher, kill 100 people just like that?" And that was the moment of awakening for the hypnotist, because he had a very strong mind. He could transform reality, but he was taking his own projections as real. Tilopa said, but you know more than anybody. These aren't real soldiers. And sort of the guy was, boing, light bulb moment. And then because he had such a strong mind, he could become a really good Buddhist disciple of Tilopa. So the main point of this phrase here in ultimate reality training is that in between sessions on the cushion, we don't let ourselves get sucked into believing things as real. We stay in the understanding that we're in our own illusions still. Other people are in their illusions. We do our very best to make these illusions helpful for us, for everybody. But we don't lose the plot. We don't lose that illusory thing. And we don't lose ourselves in what Saraha calls idiot's shunyata, idiot voidness, where we dismiss the power of relative reality because it is illusion. You just say, I don't exist, or anyway, the world doesn't exist, or this doesn't exist. That is nihilism. It is not Shunyata teachings. It's a dream. That's the Shunyata teachings. It's like a dream. It's like a conjuration, but it's so important because within that people hurt. People suffer. They make each other suffer so unnecessarily because of what they need and what they fear and so on. The fact that it is all like an illusion, but that people hurt in that should make us more and more compassionate, not less and less caring because we've got some idea of emptiness. That's a negation. So anyway, but in this 5 points, then it's to keep us in the space that we have in our precious time on the cushion, where we're starting to get closer and closer to the Buddha mind, the truth of ourselves, what it's really all about. We don't lose that. So with that, we've finished looking for now at the instructions of Atisha for awakening ultimate reality. Now the next one, and we're still in point 2, which is how we meditate, what we do on the cushion. And then, so in there, the next points are in instructions on relative bodhicitta. We have 2 areas of instruction. Again, what do we do on the cushion and what do we do between sessions? The training for on the cushion, it says, train in the 2, giving and taking, or sending and receiving, however we translate that, alternately. These 2 are to be mounted on the breath. So the words giving, taking, or receiving, sending, it's Tong, in Tibetan, Tong and Len. So this is the famous Tonglen practice, which is the very essence of our work as we practice 7-point mind training. Although we get so many verses of advice, in a way they all come back to Tonglen. Tonglen we can do from day 1 because we're in relative reality. So here we're working with it, training in the two, giving and taking. And these two are riding the breath. They're mounted on the breath. And then afterwards we'll get instructions for post-meditation. I'll give them to you now, but we won't look at them today. So in between sessions it says 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 sources of virtue. In all activities, train by applying the maxims, that's the verses, the 59 verses. Begin the process of taking with yourself. So then, now we've got the Tibetan. Tonglen Nipo Palmarachang Dene Lungla Jamparacha Yulsum Duksum Getsasum Cholam Kundu Tsikijang Lempigorem Rangnetsam. So now we're in the next part about taking and sending. So we are learning to take away suffering from others in our mind. Take away, taking, and sending or giving happiness in our mind. This is mind training. You can only train your own mind. And although people like me, or if we're helping each other as Dharma people, we can help each other train our own minds. You cannot train somebody else's mind.
That was his way. That was his way.
You deserve a reward.
Let's get the horses.
For bringing home the news.
Neil.
What is this? Who's doing this?
Did you say you're from Nottingham? Yes. Your father, Sir Walter, owes tax to the crown.
Well, something from Robin Hood there. Oops. No, what? There we go. So, goodness knows where Robin Hood came from, but we're back with, you can only train your own mind, right? This is about training your mind. It's not about taking suffering from other people in reality. And it's not about making them happier. So if if you're doing Tonglen and you've been doing it, and especially if you've been doing it for people you know or situations you know, and they're not getting any better, and the suffering's not dimming, don't think Tonglen doesn't work. It is 100% about training your mind, full stop. But when we do it, we should, with all our heart, everything I think, be really there, imagining that we are taking suffering away from others. And with all of our heart, imagining we're giving every wonderful, healing, helping, enlightening quality. So this in itself, it's one of the reasons, I think, in the mind training, we do ultimate bodhicitta. It comes in the order of things before relative bodhicitta. We are working with our own illusion. It's very weird. We're practicing Tonglen. At one and the same time, we know it's not going to help other people. But we're doing it as though in this moment I really am making things better. We're working consciously with our own illusions. That means our own conditioned mind, our own habits. Basically, when somebody comes to Dharma, most of their mind is self-centered. Doesn't sound very nice, doesn't sound very kind, but it's the truth. And I say most of their mind, so least of their mind is compassionate. So I've invented a machine, doesn't exist yet, but somebody will make it, right? There's something you can plug into your mind, your brain or mind, and it puts your mind on screen for everyone to see, right? And not only that, it's connected to a quantum computer that logs each thought, each moment. So then you've got your mind. What is this moment about? What are you thinking about? Is it more about you, your life, something for you? What am I going to do? This, how to benefit from this, how not to. It's about me, avoiding pain, avoiding suffering, making things nice. What am I going to cook? Can I treat myself to a pizza or something? This kind of thought is basically about you. And then altruistic thoughts, what can I do to help specific people, to help the world? So if our quantum computer could log a whole day's worth of thoughts, how many trillion thoughts and feelings? And now if it's you, then at the end of the day, do you think there will be more compassionate, altruistic thoughts? More than 50%? Or would there be more me, what am I going to do, me and this, me, it's all about you. It's as simple as that. And in fact, it's a terrible thing. But when we do have kind, altruistic thoughts, we normally pat ourselves on the back. And that was wonderful. I had one nice thought. I can see by your smiles, I'm not the only one who does that. Right? So where we're going is very scientific. We are learning to shift the percentage more and more so that our mind is more and more aware of others, more and more aware of what's going on, because we are one and they are many. They are so many. And the pain is terrible, what's going on in the world, in other people, and each one of those people is as real as I am. So our mind ignores them. These days it's terrible because of the news. Plane crash, only 3 people died, that's not so bad. It's not 3 people died, horrible for them and their families and everything. There was a war, how many people got killed in Ukraine or Russia today, Or even worse, people got killed in Russia, that's good. People got killed in Ukraine, that's bad. These are people who got killed, But it was only 20 today, that's all right. If it's 30, that's getting a bit bad. It's horrible. It's horrible. So we are training, Tonglen is training our own mind to become more and more aware of others and what's going on. And feeling, if only I could do something. If only I could take away that person's suffering, or even a bit of it. If only I could give some relief, some happiness, some wisdom of how to cope with these circumstances. And I want to share with you, who have not heard it before, a bit of Tibetan. From a most wonderful Chinresic practitioner, Manipa, they call it in Tibetan, Mani or Manipa Mihong. called Lama Longcho from Samiling, a real and realized bodhisattva whose compassion was not only obvious all the time, but he actually had, they call the physical signs. He was in his probably 80s, and he had the skin of a youth and a special smell of his body and so on. These are the signs of spiritual accomplishment. He had them. And when he talked about Tonglen, he would say these 3 Tibetan syllables: Chi Marung, Chi Ma Rung. Please say them. Chi Ma, I don't see your lips moving. Chi Ma Rung. Chi Marung. Chi Marung. Except when he said it, he had tears in his eyes. Chi Marung. Chi Marung. It means in Tibetan, if only. If only I could take some of their suffering. This is the feeling of Tonglen. We are aware of how much it hurts others. And we're thinking, if only I could take some of that. And we're thinking, if only I could give somebody, really, Chimarung, Chimarung, if only. We don't sit there like a cold robot, you know, breathe in, breathe out, you know, there goes some suffering, here comes some happiness. We are working with our mind, with our emotions, with everything we've got, thinking, if only I could take it. Now, this 7-point mind training comes from Atisha. He had 3 main gurus. I've talked about Selingpa in Southeast Asia, from whom he got the Mahamudra and the deep transmissions. But he had another one who actually could take suffering. It's a very famous story. This teacher of his was giving Dharma teachings in a temple, and all of a sudden he went, ow! And he held his side. And of course, people very caring for their gurus, they immediately thought he's got a sickness or something. They rushed up to help and say, you know, what's wrong? What's wrong, Rinpoche? What's wrong? And he said, no, nothing. And he carried on. But they said, well, no, come on, what is it? And then he took his robe, he showed his hip, and there was a bruise appearing. And they said, what is it? And he said, outside the temple, there was a dog, and there was a young monk who threw a rock at it, and it hit the dog, and I took the suffering, the pain of the dog. And the people were sort of, you know, they'd heard the idea, but they didn't know it was possible. They went out and checked, and sure enough, there was a kid, young monk, who had thrown a rock at a dog, but the dog had not felt pain. So he really could take suffering. He got to a state of interconnection with other people, where he could not only take away the suffering, but he could hold and process that suffering, whereby, you know, it didn't affect, he didn't suffer in his mind. His body had taken some of it. So, I mean, it can really happen. That can really happen. But we shouldn't expect that to happen from day one. And so it's really weird. And today I want to tell you about the weirdness of Tonglen, so you know what you're doing. You shouldn't be afraid. You know, if I breathe in the suffering, is it going to poison me? You know, especially if you do yoga or something like that, where it's all about pure prana, you know, purifying your body, getting it. The last thing in the world you want to do is to take in something poisonous. So we shouldn't think, well, I'm not going near that, you know, just in case. You never know, I might get a bit of it. we should know that's not going to happen when you're a beginner. It is 100% safe from that point of view. What we are training is our mind's readiness to accept difficulty in order to advance on the path. Our mind's readiness to become involved with other people's suffering without it affecting us. So we're happily wanting to help relieve their suffering, happily. But at the same time, even though we're imagining doing it, we know it can't hurt us. But when we do it, we're not thinking, oh, this can't help me anyway. Can you see the craziness of it? Maybe not, but please think about it. If you're doing Tonglen thinking, well, it can't help me anyway, it won't work. It won't work because we're working with our fear of suffering. Our fear of suffering makes us suffer. That's the ridiculous thing. Our fear of suffering leads to a lot of suffering. So, working with our fear, we have to develop this feeling of I'm really taking it, or I'm really drawing it towards me. So there are the other bit, breathing out, breathing happiness, breathing help to everyone. That's okay. That's a lovely feeling. I don't need to talk a lot about that. You feel good. You feel I'm helping somebody. I'm giving them wisdom. I'm giving them pain relief. I'm giving them. That's nice. It's beautiful. And you imagine white light streaming out from you. That's sweet. That's sweet. Don't need to worry about that. The first bit's the difficult bit. So there are various ways of practicing Tonglen. Taking suffering, giving happiness. In some ways, in some methods, we really do want to take it to ourselves. I want to take whatever I can manage to carry, to help somebody else suffer less. It's like helping somebody, a weak person, carry their bags. If you're strong enough, you have to carry the weight, but you can do it. And for the person who's struggling, carrying their bags, I'm getting old now. I went to the supermarket the other day, had to walk back to the car park with 2 heavy bags in 39 degrees heat. Thinking, you're old, it's dangerous for old people, you might drop dead before you get to the car. Struggling. Wisely, but I was struggling, So you're thinking if somebody else doesn't have to struggle, and I can manage it, this is where we're heading. There's that way of doing it, where it's really about you, and you're taking what you can carry of other people's suffering. There are other ways of doing it where they're holding the breath in between in-breath and out-breath is where you identify with Buddha mind, and there whatever suffering is come is not carried by me personally, I, myself. It dissolves in Buddha mind where no suffering can exist. It's removed from the person and dissolved into Buddha mind. And from Buddha mind, that's where all of the blessing, the benefit, the wisdom, the healing come. So you'll find various practical methods, different visualizations of what goes on in your heart center, or nothing goes on in your heart center. There isn't one method of Tonglen. There are several, and they should be used by a teacher in a way that suits the person. So I think we need to finish there today. We're just starting looking at the Tonglen practice. I taught it some years ago in these Zoom teachings, and since then we've had a training group. Each month we find a different focus in order to expand our awareness of what's going on out there. And so far we've had maybe 100 sessions, I don't know, 50, 100 sessions. We keep finding new focuses. So Tonglen is endless. Let's dedicate anything that was good and helpful today, thinking now we're giving it 100% as our gift to everybody. May whatever virtue was created by this session contribute to the state of omniscience being attained by the main enemy, our mind's defilements, being completely defeated. Through that, may each and every sentient being become free from the ocean of existence troubled by its waves of rebirth, aging, sickness and death. May this precious bodhicitta arise in those in whom it's not arisen. In those in whom it has arisen, may its development know no setbacks, and may it increase ever more and more. Through our virtue, may we quickly achieve Mahamudra and establish every single sentient being in that same accomplishment. Well, thank you. And hello to those I didn't say hello to at the beginning. Great to see you. And so it's, if you've got anything that you'd like to contribute or question you'd like to ask, then this is the time.
Thank you, Ken. That's really crystallized a lot of the stuff that you went through. Looking at my notes from 2016, 2017 retreat at Samye Ling, when you went through the mind training then. And it's kind of pulled together a lot of stuff, like crystallizing something out of a solution, and giving it new relevance, very direct to actually some experiences in the last few days and situations. So that's really helpful. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Let's dedicate that. That's a good one.
Ken,
Yes.
a
Yes,
question.
Vicky.
So I'm thinking there was something that you said earlier about suffering. And let's just take the example, if someone has the karma of extreme poverty, for example.
Yeah.
And I mean, that pain is very, very real. And I guess what I'm asking is something about how do you honor the reality of that suffering? I mean, we all have suffering to some degree, right? So it's a broader question. Like, how do you sit within that real suffering, and also apply these teachings? Because, you know, being able to feed yourself is a basic human need. Rather than me wanting, I don't know, the latest iPhone or something. So I'm just asking, how do you sensibly work with that whilst living a lay practitioner's life?
Yeah. Well, that's what Tonglen is for. So in certainly next week, I don't know in how many sessions we'll spend on Tonglen, but we'll see how in practice we apply it. So the taking part or the receiving part is with the in-breath. So as long as we're breathing in, we're using everything we are, our intelligence, our heart, our ability to feel, to experience, in that case, poverty for what it really is. So we're thinking about it. We're trying to feel how it must be to be that poor, to live that life. And we're putting ourselves wholeheartedly into it. So as we draw the suffering to us as dark smoke, it feels like poison. And that feeling of poison is because we're experiencing as best we can what they're going through. Now, of course, you can't really be in their place. We're imagining. But it's making us aware that not only they are so poor, but that there are so many poor people in the world. And then, worse than that, there are spirits who are in the next degree beyond of poverty and being alone and abandoned, hungry ghost spirits, and so on. So it is that awareness of what's going on in our fellow beings. And then that's augmented off the Tonglen cushion, because we're thinking, this person who is poor now and going through these things I'm imagining was my best friend, was somebody so kind to me in the past. I've got friends who are in poverty in different ways. And so when it's people you know, you really feel it. It's painful for you. So we're trying to be close to more and more people by imagining their situation and thinking, what's the difference? This one I know, but they've all been so close to me in the past. So close to me. So off the cushion, we think that when we're on the cushion, then our awareness of their suffering is inspiring us to become bodhisattvas, so that we actually have the skills and the power and the karma to remove poverty. Like Akon Rinpoche, a lot of his life was spent actually helping people out of poverty. He wasn't just Tonglening it. He was out there in all sorts of ways, helping people get education, get work, make projects, and he was very aware of that. He had the motivation, the strength, the karma to do good things because of his bodhisattva path. So although at the moment we can't take away their actual poverty, we can be making of ourselves in the future somebody who will be helping people in their poverty, helping them not be poor in the external way, but also helping them cope with their poverty in terms of their own mind in an internal way.
And what happens if you are the person experiencing poverty, for example? I guess that's what I was referring to, like this very, very real suffering in the moment of, let's just say you're living in extreme poverty now and you need to, the very practical side of it is that you need to put an awful lot of effort into trying to get out of it. So to find work or something like that. And then this spiritual side, I think I'm talking about this balance of, like, how do you do those two things? Because we are in this relative world that feels very, very real. And I mean, you could just decide, well, I'm going to sit there and instead I'm going to dedicate myself fully to a spiritual path. And therefore I'm going to solely practice this and accept my poverty. Or is there a teaching which says, no, I should do everything in my power to try and get out of that, and as a result give up a little bit of my ability to practice because I'm spending all my time doing the other? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think there is one answer. It's either or, depending on you and your karma, and not so much either or, but how many percentage of the one or of the other. If we are convinced our human existence is a very precious one, then we should do all we can to keep it alive as long as it's useful. We have a duty to ourselves, especially if we practice Vajrayana. Our body is the home of all of the sacred beings. So we do need to deal with our poverty, but then applying these teachings, we deal with it as best we can, but as a conjurer of illusions. You have to do this, you have to go for a job interview, whatever it is. We're seeing it as illusory, but a very, very necessary and very important illusion. Within the illusion, it's what's going to make tomorrow's illusion, and the day after that's illusion. So we give it the weight it deserves, all the time seeing it's illusory. In the Buddhist understanding of illusory, you have to have karma, cause and effect. So it could get worse. And if it does get worse, then we have to accept that as the power of karma. But whatever happens materially in terms of poverty, it's not going to get our mind. So we need to give enough space to practice so that we keep our mind in a sacred place, even if we're going to die because of it, in the end. So finding the balance between those two is really bloody difficult, and we have to do a lot of the work ourselves. If you do have a very good Dharma teacher, then they can maybe help you, and remember the great treasure of being with Akon Rinpoche when he was guiding other people or being an interpreter for lamas. Sometimes they might say you need to give the whole of the next month or two to working on your worldly situation. Practice a minimum, give yourself entirely to that, or the other way round. Except it could go further wrong, but you need to give more time to practice so that your heart and mind are able to cope. It's very, very personal thing. This is so much of Dharma isn't just black and white and you've got the book with the answers. It has to be tailored to each person and their situation today. When it comes to the actual teachings on poverty and generosity, the first paramita, we see the conundrum as if you don't have much, then you can't practice material generosity because you don't have much to give. You don't have anything to give. In fact, you can be begging for other people. You need other people's help. But in your mind, mental generosity, 100% done sincerely, makes generosity karma, even if you haven't got the material to give. So we can imagine feeding the hungry, giving funds to those who need funds for this and that. And in terms of our own thinking, practice about karma, we think each day, each moment I go through poverty, that's one little bit less of my own poverty karma. Gone, cleaned up, gone forever. So it was hard, but I'm grateful to have got through that, because when karma manifests, it's too late. There's no mental trick you can do to get rid of it. It just has to work through. So we're grateful that our own one's gone, but by the mental act of giving, we are actually erasing the karma poverty karma we've made in the past that hasn't come to fruition yet. Does that make sense? Through practicing mental generosity, and there we can feel happy. I know it's easy for me to say, but you can think, until I was this poor, I never really understood what it was like to be poor. It's like me, I'm old, I've got serious illnesses. I never understood that till I was old and seriously ill. Old age is no joke, cancer's no joke, all of this, I'm on chemotherapy, it's really challenging. And although I sort of knew about it, I didn't really know. And now I'm so much more aware and sensitive to people who are old, people who are undergoing cancer treatment, people who are suffering from cancer itself, and so on. I'm very grateful for it, and it changes life so much. It's what they call a wake-up call, and it's great. Thank you again, and thank you even more. Oh, my screen went blank when I did that. So, we can be grateful and realize how much samsara lulls you into a spiritual sleep. So there's what they call wiggle room. There's a bit of room in our own suffering for getting some good out of it, and especially extending our awareness to others. And then we do Tonglen. I'm thinking, if only through this poverty I'm experiencing today, if only. Chimarung, if only through this poverty, somebody else who's poor could suffer less. Not only is that improving your bodhisattva mind, and again it's this contradiction of Tonglen, it's actually getting rid of your own karma. If you're really doing it from the heart and thinking, if only this could, if only how I'm hurting today could take it away from others. That sincerity, the power of the feeling, is purifying your own karma. Now, we have to not be tricky with Tonglen. And I think, oh gosh, if I really think I'm taking it, I'm doing myself a favor. That's not the spirit of Tonglen. We forget about ourselves. We're thinking of others. It's this amazing contradiction of what we know is going on, but we put ourselves in our own illusions and work with it so really. And does that help? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, very great answer, actually, because it's complicated, but yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
This could be the pre-lunch silence.
Ken, I was just thinking, following on from that it also highlights, I think you were kind of almost touching on it, but I was thinking earlier on, talking about the conjurer of illusions aspect of it, that it also highlights how important it is to have the right motivation for this, because it does also give you an opportunity for immense power in other people's lives, and it would be very easy to misuse that, either deliberately or inadvertently through well-meaning, I suppose, sort of clumsy do-gooding, well-meaningness type of thing. A very clumsy way to put it, but yeah, it's. I think that's an important caveat too, that it's that the intention, the underlying intention before this is really important, part of that preliminaries thing.
Yeah. And then the 6 paramitas is learning in the practicality of it. It's so hands-on, and what you see really what you can do and what you can't do and what you're not ready to do yet, and and that interesting edge, where you could give something up and you could be of help, where you can stretch your own less me, more them boundaries. And I remember in Samiling, or one or two people who want to help you, and when they come up, you want to run. There was even one person who had a way of a two-handed grab on your arm. They would grab your bicep and your forearm at the same time, and it was like, I've got you. And you know they want to help you, and I don't want your help, not just yet, thank you, but so they want to be involved in your situation and know more, and kind of sticky, and how can I help you kind of thing. So very hard people to help with those. There's another person. You'd be sitting in the Samaning shrine room, and all of a sudden you get that creepy feeling of something going on behind you, that feeling of being followed. You turn around and she'd be there with her hands healing you, like whether you wanted healing or not. You'd be getting this kind of feeling in your kidneys or something like this. And okay, see you next week. I hope have a lovely week. And take good care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.